morale's going to grow throughout this episode. I just want that known. The first topic, we got to start here. Michigan State destroyed by Michigan, 49-0. I don't know how much you saw because you were in West Coast time. I don't know what you were doing. You're probably busy. I'm sure you watched, but
Mhm.
I was in the stadium. We left at the end of the third quarter. I was in a Raising Cane's line watching, streaming as Jim Harbaugh decided to punch in for a 49-point win instead of take a knee. Just as bad as it can possibly get. I'll get to my full takeaway when it comes back to me here, but you knew it was going to be bad. I had pregame predicted a 48-3 finish. That was my prediction. And somehow it was worse. It just was. I've never possibly processed in my mind that it could be this bad for Michigan State football, to the point that even the rivalry itself was like too cordial for my liking. Like everybody that was there, both maize and blue and green and white, was just like, this is a beating. There's nothing else to do here other than just get through it together. It was kind of sad. So I have a coaching takeaway I'll get to later in this, but first, floor is yours. What do you make of Michigan State's 49-0 rivalry loss?
First of all, Michigan's probably the best team in the country in football. Granted, they still have not played anyone yet because Michigan State's not anyone, but it's basically who's going to win it all between Georgia and Michigan in my eyes. And I maybe throw Florida State as that third team in there. And then whoever is the other team, I don't know, whoever you want to throw in there, Oklahoma. But Michigan is a lock to make the college football playoff, especially after watching Ohio State and Penn State earlier that day. I text you, I'm like, oh my God, like Michigan's got a path this year, obviously to, they've made it the past couple of years, but yeah, Michigan football is just a really, really good team. J.J. McCarthy's good. Corum's good. And honestly, J.J. McCarthy's probably doing this without a for sure fire, like top receiver, like the other great quarterbacks are doing it with. And then second of all, credit to Jim Harbaugh for punching that in to do 49. That was 100% the right move. That's what he should have did. If the shoe was on the other foot, I would hope that, Coach Meyer, Coach Urban Harlan, punch that in for a 49-0 win. Just really sad times for Michigan State football right now. Like nothing good to take away from that game. It was so bad, such a bad beating that there wasn't even like a lot of shit talk from the Michigan side. It was more so like we feel bad like that we had to do this. You guys are embarrassing. You're not a good football team. So hopefully this is the actual rock bottom and low, and we find a way to do something after this because I don't know. I saw all types of stats. Like I think this is the worst loss in the rivalry since like 1950, which is insane. And the previous worst loss before that was like 119-0. So just, I don't know. I was very, very sad as a Michigan State fan. It was very sad times. Thankfully, Michigan State basketball was able to drop their scrimmage highlights that same night, which really, kept me from going to a really, really dark place. But yeah, I think I mentioned the word rock bottom before with Michigan State football. This is it. This is 150% it, and it stinks. And now we got to fix it. We got to do something.
So I still think Rutgers was the rock bottom because that felt like you missed an opportunity. There was no opportunity in this Michigan game to me. And maybe that's doomy, but you could play this game 1,000 times. Michigan State's not winning this game. They're not doing it. Michigan is that good, to your point. That's a change for you from where we've been all season. You've always asserted Michigan's not the best team in the country. I think a couple weeks back it was Florida State that you said you would take over them. So is it something specific you saw in this game that swings that for you?
They're just like so talented at every position, but at the same time, they still have not played anybody. Like they have. I mean, I guess UNLV is good. I know people have sent me that tweet plenty of times that UNLV is like receiving votes, and I think they might be in the top 25 this week, actually.
The thing is, so I'm not here to defend the schedule. I don't think they've played a good football team, but all these bad football teams they've played have winning records right now. So like it's in the middle, I think. I don't think this is the worst schedule in the country. And more importantly, complaining about football schedules is stupid to me because they play Penn State in like 2 weeks. Like, it's not like Michigan's out here ducking. They're going to play Penn State and Ohio State. And they should be big favorites in those games because Drew Aller's horrible. I just don't know, man. My one big takeaway from seeing it in person, like I said, I predicted a huge blowout. It played out similarly. I did live bet in the stadium. I live bet Michigan State to score a point at like plus 120 odds. Thought for sure, like this was at halftime, I could get a point at plus money. Never had a chance. The only thing that I will say felt like any sort of surprise to me, and I've been beating the drum for this guy in the Discord, JJ McCarthy's way better in person than I anticipated he would be. Like I've said he's a great quarterback. I've had him as my fourth best quarterback in the country, but I just think he's way better. Like, and you can say, oh, his job is so easy. It's the offensive line. He has a clean pocket every time. That's true to an extent. Like he plays in a system that makes it really easy for him. Also, he faced like multiple 3rd and 14s in the first half of this game where he had to evade pressure, get out of the pocket, not just sit in a pocket, and then like create time to throw guys open on the run. And every single time he was faced with a play like that, it was perfect. Like the ball was on the numbers. And I mean, you saw the numbers. He had 6 incompletions in this game. He had 4 touchdowns. He did not make one mistake. And he was on the bench by 6 minutes left in the third quarter. And that's been like every game this season. Like if they wanted him to get prolific quarterback numbers, I would think you could play him a whole extra quarter and try to get him 2 more touchdowns, and you probably get him right now. But I just I don't know. I think I said it to you. Like, I don't buy that he's Michigan's most talented quarterback, like Harbaugh's been saying. Like, I think he's great. I'm starting to buy he actually might be the most talented guy to play quarterback in Michigan in like 30 years. He's that solid to me. And also I want to say Corum's great, obviously. This running game is a lot worse than it was last year overall, though. And it's mostly because Donovan Edwards is way worse. But, like, even Corum post-injury doesn't feel as prolific. Like, last year he was Heisman candidate. This year he's just, like, very solid running back. Like, JJ being so good is why the Michigan offense is still so good. And last year it was the run game that carried it. This year it's JJ.
And their defense.
Yeah, defense is just crazy. If you aren't a good football player on offense, you're not scoring against Michigan. That's the bottom line. Like you have to make plays that are against guys that are guarded. And that's where Caden Hauser comes in. Let's have that conversation pretty quick, because the Caden Hauser conversation has gotten a lot quieter in the last 2 weeks. I haven't seen the people camping for how talented this kid is saying anything about his future after this game. Where do you stand on Caden? Hard assignment. Michigan's great, but he did not do a thing in this game.
Yeah, he stunk. Straight up, he stunk.
Does that inspire? Like, do you think that was just Michigan's that good? Do you think Caden should have been able to make something shake in this game? Where are you at?
I don't know. I mean, I think it was a lot of what he did last week, except it wasn't against Rutgers. Like him throwing behind, him throwing off. Like he was off in this game, like really off. And he was shaken too. I think he was, to me, visibly, he looked like he was shook, which is even a scarier thing, because for me, yes, I'm not expecting freshman quarterback to come in and make great plays and play like flawless, but it holds a little bit of weight when a freshman comes in with a certain type of maybe swag or dog tone where he's not afraid like to play. It seemed like he was a little bit afraid in my eyes. Now, granted, Michigan was great and probably rattled a lot of quarterbacks in the country, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think Caden did anything to inspire that like he's the guy who's going to be our quarterback for the future.
Yeah. Okay. That's where I'm at. That's where I had been at, as I'm sure you know, when we talked.
Yeah. But I think we did mention that last week during the Rutgers game that I think we didn't really expect him to do much against Michigan, but I expected him to do more than he did. He did nothing.
Yeah, that was sort of my like, let's see. And you've said that over and over again. It's like, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. Mm-hmm. Well, okay, now we did just see. He went up against an elite defense, and he did not have one play in this game where he did anything relevant that a good quarterback would do. And look, it's a lot of pressure. Like, I don't mean to blame Caden, because I've said all year long, it doesn't matter who plays quarterback. The rest of this team is so bad. Like Caton could have been flawless in this game and they still lose by 35 points. That's the truth. But I think you wanted to at least see like some flashes here or there of Caton getting out of the pocket, making plays on his own, like throwing somebody open. And my biggest problem with Caton is I just don't think he has a QB1 arm. I just don't. Like from everything I've seen, he is very inaccurate. He misses throws. This is the second straight week. He averaged 4 yards per completion. I think he's a check down guy who is going to throw 100 yards a game if he's your starting quarterback. And hopefully he can make some plays scripted on the run, but you can't do that against Michigan. So, yeah, didn't see anything from him that makes me think like that could be the guy. And yeah, crickets from the group that was adamant this guy was a way higher ceiling player than the two other quarterbacks that have passed through. Levitt looked okay late against backups. Are we doing that now?
No. I mean, he did throw a pick though, didn't he?
He did. They had very similar numbers.
Yeah, so I don't know. Who knows? Michigan backup's probably pretty good if we want to play that game on how good their backups are. But yeah, I still will say this. Okay, or I want to ask you this before we actually move on to the end part of the coaching discussion. Mm-hmm. Is there anything he can do the rest of the season to sway you to maybe this is the guy?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have the opportunities. You got to see at least one game against a team with a pulse where Caton like not just goes out and is there. Like he needs to go be the best player on the field and elevate this group of misfits that are clearly a bad football team. Elevate them to something more against a team with a pulse. That's what I want to see. And it's a hard job. Like I'm not blaming Caton if he can't do that because it's an impossible task. Peyton Thorne couldn't do it. Noah Kim couldn't do it. And we still don't know if those guys are better or worse quarterbacks than Caton. But Caton's going to get chances. And in my opinion, he's now had 2 chances. And he hasn't. He has not done that. So tough situation. Let's get to the coaching element of this. Urban Meyer rumors are still burning. I heard, this is not a report, but this is me sharing rumors I have heard from 2 people that I do trust, 2 completely independent people that do not know each other, have not talked to each other, but both have broken news to me before within Michigan State athletics that Urban Meyer did have a conversation in East Lansing last week about the head coach opening at Michigan State. What I have been told is that the most important Michigan State donors are adamant that they want Urban Meyer as Michigan State's next coach and that there is no number that would not be met. I've also heard that in response to that, Urban has essentially said, I'm not interested. That can change. Pursuit is a big thing, and there's not really a rush on when Michigan State needs to hire a coach by right now. So if they want to put the full court press on, they could do that. So I guess 1, to you, is that what you've been hearing? And 2, have your feelings changed on when we came on here a month ago and said it would be a major mistake to hire Urban Meyer?
Yeah, well, I've heard everything that you have heard, and it seems, at least from my point of view and everything that I've heard, that there is no number, like you said. Like they will continually do what they have to do to get this man. And I will say this, and shout out to, the guy with the golden retriever and the Oakley's on in his profile picture who said we were a bunch of sissy pansy boys and that we need to just suck it up and hire Urban Meyer. I'm not going to say you were right, but I will say this program is at such a down bad place that it might have to hire a guy like Urban Meyer because I don't know if there is another coach out there who can flip this program around like he has flipped programs around. Now, granted, yes, he's had issues, I guess, however you want to define those issues at every stop that he's taken, whether they're more serious or not serious, that's for you to decide. But the fact of the matter is he's turned programs around at every single stop he's went to. And I think credit to you, this goes back to what you said. This has to be a hire of a guy who is like a big name. Now, if that is Urban Meyer, go after Urban Meyer. But this program needs a big name football coach who's a difference maker, like badly. And, what has happened so far this season is indicative of that. Um, so I hope they're ready to do their fundraising and their bake sales because we're going to need big numbers and we're going to need to hire a big name guy. And if that guy's Urban, I bet he turns the program around and we win football games. Let's just hope he's not at Crunchy's late night. But besides that, like, he's going to win football games.
So I still strongly believe that Urban Meyer's a horrible person. Nothing's going to change that. Speaking for me and not speaking for what I think Michigan State should do, I'm now speaking for me. I have swung and I want them to hire Urban Meyer. A month ago, I would have said absolutely not. You can't do that. It's horrible. And I don't feel good about saying that. Like, I don't feel good that that's what I want to happen now. But I don't know how anyone who went to this game in person, I don't know how you could go to this, spend a whole day in East Lansing, do the tailgate, make the rounds, see all of these alumni, see everyone who's like supposed to be a part of this special Michigan State community, and then walk into the stadium and see how low of a point we've gotten single-handedly because of Mel Tucker, by the way. Let's not forget why this program is where it is right now. It's single-handedly because of Mel Tucker's decisions and his actions as a coach and as a person. He has destroyed this. He's destroyed it. He's erased everything, all the momentum this place had. He's destroyed it. This has to change. Like, I want it to change. I selfishly want it to change from a football perspective because I know how impactful and how meaningful it can be for a community when things are going right on the field. And I know that's shitty, but it's true. Now, I'm not the person that has to make this decision. If I was the person who had to make this decision, I might feel differently because it would be my job to value what all of the women in the Michigan State community think. And I don't think there's going to be a moment where most female Michigan State fans swing from like, that would be a major mistake. That's a slap in the face to hire this idiot after all that's happened. And I don't want to say that's unimportant or throw it out the window, but the truth is, like, we need a galvanizing guy. And if you look at the other candidates, man, seriously, go back a month ago and we're like, oh, well, there's all these promising next guy up candidates. How is Jake Dickert doing right now? He lost 44-6 to Arizona a week ago and has lost 3 straight games. How's Charles Huff doing right now, Cart? That was our boy, right? Oh, wait, no. Marshall's lost 3 consecutive games, including a 17-point loss to Georgia State. Like,
their whole team was out. Their whole team was out.
Fine, but everyone who was a quote-unquote promising hire, they're having these great seasons. Fast forward 3 weeks, they're like about to miss bowl games. So my problem all along was that the candidate pool stunk, and anybody acting like it didn't stink was lying. And I still think there's a middle ground. I think there's a middle ground between Mike Elko and Urban Meyer. But if you're telling me there's not, if we're not going to reach out to anybody in between Mike Elko and Urban Meyer, then fine, give me Urban Meyer. That's where I'm at. What do you think happens?
I still feel like I think they'd be hard. I just don't think that Michigan State would pull the trigger to hire Urban, not after everything the program's been through. I just think that it's honestly, I don't know what the actual phrase would be, but they're choosing the image and the morality, which they should, by the way. I'm not opposed to that. I think that should come before winning football games, in my personal opinion. But I just don't think that they would pull the trigger. If they did, I would say I'd be very surprised.
Okay. Yeah, I still lean that way. I don't think this gets done. I think they exhaust every possible way to get it done. I don't think they get it done.
Can I ask you one more thing before you move on?
Yep.
How was like the turnout? Like how's the tailgating? How's the stadium?
Honestly, it was really good.
What were the vibes?
It was really good. It pleasantly surprised me a lot. I would say at the start of the game, it truly felt, it was like 80% Michigan State, 20% Michigan, and the stadium was filled.
Okay, that's good.
Then, yeah, I mean, by halftime, still pretty good crowd, I would say. To start the second half, everybody left. And
yeah,
I left at the end of the third quarter. The students were gone at half. By the end of the game, when I left, like the last moment I was there, it felt like a Michigan crowd, which is not a surprise given the way the game went. But throughout the day, being on campus and all that was great. It was my first time back in a while and saw a lot of people I didn't know. And I mean, the Michigan State showed out for sure. Like that's part of what's swinging me towards Urban is like there is this special community that is there that just needs something to get around that's good. And man, I wish it was a good football coach that's also a good person. But
Mhm.
if you're telling me my options are what they are, then fine, man. We gotta get out of this hole. That's where I'm at. So
Yeah, makes sense.
but I'm a flip flopper. That's the bottom line. I just flip flop. I hate how much I flip flopped in the last month on this. It's horrible.